Morning rush. New Mexico State Police is at the center of a lawsuit this morning after a high-speed chase through the metro ended in a car crash. In February of 2021, state police officers attempted to stop Jose Rivera, but they say he refused to pull over, sparking a chase through Albuquerque. It ended with Rivera slamming into another car near Central in Wyoming. The driver and passenger suffered serious injuries, including a broken pelvis.
Starting in March, New Mexicans who receive SNAP benefits will go back to getting their regular allotments. During COVID, some states requested an emergency allotment that would give each household on SNAP the maximum payment allowed for their homes that would then come in a second payment later on in the month. Now, after 3 years, those extra SNAP payments will come to an end.
New Mexicans may not ever have to turn their clocks back again because a bill making its way through the roundhouse. Senate Bill 287 cleared the Senate Health Committee yesterday, which would make New Mexico spring forward and stay on daylight savings time for good. Erica.
And here's a look at our school day forecast. It is a chilly start, but dry. 37 degrees for your bus stop this morning and 59 by the afternoon, but we'll see some spotty rain showers and strong winds, so be sure to grab a windbreaker.
Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham signed Senate Bill 6 yesterday, which provides $100 million in zero-interest loans for repairs in the aftermath of the Hermit's Peak Calf Canyon fire. Individuals are not covered under the bill. All of the funds will go to infrastructure projects only.
A judge is set to decide if the 16-year-old charged with the murder of Jada Gonzalez will stay behind bars until trial. Cruz Medina and 19-year-old Jesse Parra are accused of opening fire on a house in December. The 18-year-old was in the home and was shot and killed. We will monitor that hearing for you this morning and bring you updates as we see them.
Actor Alec Baldwin and armorer Hannah Gutierrez Reed will now be facing lesser charges for the 2021 shooting death of Helena Hutchins on the Rust movie set. Now, both were initially facing 2 charges of involuntary manslaughter with a firearm enhancement, which would have added 5 years behind bars. Yesterday, that enhancement was dropped as it was not law yet when the shooting happened. Erica.
Here's a look at our threat index. It is moderate today. Roads are going to be wet across the state as rain showers move through, especially southern New Mexico, and we'll see some high winds on the east side of the state.
President Biden is back in Poland after an impromptu visit to Ukraine. During the trip, Biden promised the Ukrainian defenders another $450 million worth of military aid. The president will be meeting with other NATO leaders today.
At least 10 people are injured and 1 person was killed after an explosion at a metal plant in a suburb of Cleveland, Ohio. 13 people were transferred to the local hospitals, with 1 person having to be pulled from the rubble. The plant was under investigation by OSHA. That was for what the safety agency called a serious violation regarding the control of, quote, hazardous energy.
The city of New Orleans is still recovering this morning after a shooting Sunday night left 1 person dead and 4 others injured. A 4-year-old girl was among those hurt and a teenager killed. The suspect was detained quickly, despite the crowds in the French Quarter continue to grow as those hospitalized are now recovering at home. Erica.
All right, a check on traffic. The maps are looking mostly clear. We do have an accident. Tracker is heading to that crash. It's going south on I-25 towards Martin Luther King exit. As you can see, there are some slowdowns there in that area.
A dog and her owner are reunited this morning. That's after a scary situation on a Los Angeles freeway. Over the weekend, her owner, Jay Segura, left his dog Pretty with his in-laws. Now, she somehow got away and then was later found roaming around the freeway. Luckily, someone was able to grab her and then return her after a visit to the vet.
Time now for the 5 facts.
At number 5, Duke the tiger cub, found here in Albuquerque last month, is getting adjusted to his new home. That's at the Wild Animal Sanctuary in Keensburg, Colorado. The small cub has almost doubled in size during his first week at the shelter. After about another week, Duke can then be moved to a habitat outside where he can play with other rescue tigers more his size.
At number 4, New Mexicans may not ever have to turn their clocks back again. That's because a bill making its way through the roundhouse is 1 step closer to ending the process of springing forward and falling back every year. Senate Bill 287 cleared the Senate Health Committee yesterday. It would make New Mexico spring forward and stay on daylight saving time for good. Senator Cliff Purtle has been pushing this change for years. Now, if the governor signs the bill, New Mexico would still need congressional approval to stay on daylight saving.
And at number 3, we are waking up to rain showers in southern New Mexico. It's pretty wet across I-25 from about Socorro southward. We're starting to see more of that rain moving in around the Manzano Mountains as well. Vaughn seeing some spotty showers, and we are wet around I-10 and the southern Gila.
And number 2, actor Alec Baldwin and armorer Hannah Gutierrez Reed will be facing lesser charges for the shooting death of cinematographer than first expected. The two were initially facing 2 charges of involuntary manslaughter for the shooting death of Halyna Hutchins on the Rust movie set in October 2021. One of those charges carried a firearm enhancement that would have mandated 5 years in prison if convicted. Baldwin's legal team argued that the firearm enhancement did not exist when the shooting occurred, and yesterday that part was dropped. Baldwin and Gutierrez Reed could both face up to 18 months in jail for involuntary manslaughter if convicted.
And at number 1, New Mexico State Police is at the center of a lawsuit this morning. That is after a high-speed chase through the metro ended in a car crash. In February of 2021, state police officers tried to stop Jose Rivera, but say that he refused to pull over and sparking a high-speed chase through Albuquerque, ending with Rivera slamming into another car and then injuring the driver and passenger. Well, the lawsuit claims that officers violated policies and disregarded public safety. State police is not commenting on the lawsuit. Rivera accepted a plea deal for aggravated fleeing and leaving the scene of an accident.